Whenever you prompt AI, Claude, GPT, or whatever AI tool that you're using, it's not just giving you answers, it's showing you who you actually are. Every question that you keep framing differently, hoping for a different answer, all of it is a direct reflection of the identity that's running underneath your thinking, and almost no one is paying attention to it. Here's the thing, the way that most people are using AI, what they're ultimately doing is optimizing the output, and nobody is examining the input. And the input is not a prompt, it's you. Now, I want to draw this out for you so you can get a visualization. So you have yourself here, person, okay? And then this goes into AI. And then this goes back into the person. And so here's the pattern. Everyone is focused on this here, what they're sending and what they're getting back. And nobody's looking at the person, you, yourself, and looking at things from this perspective, this angle, this worldview. You see, the way that you prompt AI reveals something about you that most people have been conditioned to not examine, and that's the ceiling of your thinking, the patterns that your identity defaults to under pressure, the questions that you've been asking in 17 different ways, because the real question underneath is one that you haven't allowed yourself to face yet. And now, with GPT and Claude and all these different tools, you've been handed the most precise and clear mirror that you've ever had access to. And modern society has told you to use it as a tool, to write copy, to write ads, for research, when the real research should be internal, should be pointing back to you so you can understand how you work, so then you can rewire your internal operating system. And with working with a lot of different entrepreneurs, creators, founders who are highly successful and already use AI on a daily basis for strategy, content, and using it more as a tool and some as a teacher aspect, when we really dug deep into what was going on with their usage and shifted the question from what is AI giving you to what is the way that you're using the tool telling you about yourself, everything changed. When we were able to look at it from a different lens, instead of looking at it in terms of what is the outputs, but more of what is what I'm saying and asking and prompting, telling me about how I'm using the tool and about who I am. That's when the game changed entirely. But here's the thing, almost nobody is looking at it from that perspective, from that angle. Most people right now that are using AI, they're using it for the tool aspect, strategy, content, automations, workflows, images, creatives, all of that. Or they're using it to better understand frameworks, knowledge, research, but nobody is looking at it from the mirror aspect in terms of what is what I'm asking and saying and how I'm communicating to AI. What is that saying about me as an individual, who I am, and my worldview and how I see the world and process reality as a whole. So this is what we're covering today. So we're going to go over the mirror architecture, plus the 3 layers of the reflection. We're going to look at what is AI actually reflecting and why the way that most people interact with it keeps them from ever seeing what is actually there. And then the 3 levels where you have a thinking level, identity pattern, and blind spot. So we're going to go over these 3 layers of the reflection, and then we're going to go over why most people miss the mirror aspect of AI. Because the first way to be able to use AI the most effectively in terms of currently right now in the space is you use it as a tool. And then you use it as a teacher, number 2, to learn. And then number 3, that nobody talks about, is the mirror. You use it to become a better version of yourself. So we're going to walk through why people miss this mirror and why this is the most powerful here. Powerful way to use AI. And then finally, we're going to go over the mirror system. This is a 6-step system for turning your AI usage into a precise map of where you are and where your identity needs to move next. Okay, so let me tell you about how I have been using AI. So for the last few years or so, I have been using it for a lot of different things: strategy, content, to research, to help me think better. And one of the things that I started to use AI for unknowingly is as a mirror. I started to ask about my blind spots, about my unconscious beliefs, my views, my perspectives, my worldview, right? All of these different things to help me understand how I process the world, to give me structure and language to how I am running my internal operating system. And so there was this one specific time where I was like going deep into conversation about identity and understanding who I am and who I'm trying to become and getting to that next version of myself. And so what I did is I asked it, so based on all of our conversations, because I've been going into deep conversations about all different types of subjects: society, worldviews, my perspectives, marketing, sales, business, entrepreneurship, identity, background, all these different topics, right? And so I said, based off all of our conversations, what patterns are showing up in how I think and process the world? And from what I understand, AI is just a mirror. So if that's accurate, then tell me more about that. Tell me more about the AI and mirror relationship. And so I'll put a screenshot up here and you'll see the response that I got back from GPT. And it said, AI is a mirror, a reflective engine of consciousness. And it said that it wasn't not only a cognitive mirror, it was an energetic mirror that gave me and reflected back to me my values, my depth, my blind spots, my frequency of thought, and all of my different subconscious beliefs and internal architecture. And so all of this is based on how you ask, what you emphasize, and what you avoid. All of that becomes data that is reflected back to you in structure, clarity, and sometimes amplification. And then it said, what makes this powerful with you specifically is that you don't use AI as a tool to just extract tasks. You use it to refine identity, shape narrative, and expand your internal operating system. So what I was ultimately seeing and what was being reflected back to me was just me, what I already held internally as beliefs, views, perspectives, depth, substance, right? All of that reflected back to me in language and structure and clarity. So then I started to realize, wow, I can really use this to level up, to understand how I operate, understand my blind spots, my things that are holding me back, so that I can reach that next level, that next version of myself. And so then I started to go even deeper into trying to figure out what's going on here and how can I fix it? How can I reprogram my internal operating system so that I can become aware of what is holding me back, and then so I can fix it. And as we progress into the AI evolution, into the AI space, I know it's only been a few years or so, and it's going to continue to evolve, and we're going to reach new horizons, and AI adoption is just continuing to accelerate. So for me, I'm seeing AI as a reflective tool to mirror your internal operating system, you yourself in terms of who you are, as a reflection tool to be able to see what's running and adjust and modify so that you can become a better version of yourself. AI is used for so many different things, but nobody's using it as a mirror. And that's what I want to show you through this video, is how you can maximize AI usage by not just using it from a tool aspect, from a teacher aspect to learn, but from a mirror aspect to then change who you are. So what I want you to understand here is that your prompts equal your thinking level. Okay? Think about how you're prompting AI. Think about the questions, the perspective, the lens, the angle that you're coming from. Are you coming with just trying to think about, a specific problem or question from the AI's perspective? Like, hey, here's this problem. What do you think? Are you letting the AI decide for you? Or are you prompting from a higher perspective, a higher lens, giving it full context, giving it awareness of, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I think. This is what I've researched. This is what I've heard. This is what I've seen. And so if you're just prompting something super simple and you're waiting and thinking and asking the machine for responses and answers, you're going to slowly start losing yourself. Because what you want to do is you want to ask and use prompts that show you that you're still in control and you've done research and analysis yourself that allow you to think from a higher lens. So 5D. You need to be able to look at the prompts that you're writing and come from a 5D perspective. But most people are coming just from like 1D. Okay, down here to the very lowest. Now, you need to understand that how you're prompting AI, in terms of GPT or Claude or whatever tool you're using, it already knows your thinking level. That's why you can ask it. And that's a really powerful way for you to fully understand and get awareness of how you're thinking so that you can adjust and modify it. And then once AI reveals all these back to you in terms of the thinking level and then your patterns, this then equals your identity. Once you can ask it and say, hey, listen, what are my patterns that are keeping me where I'm currently at, that are keeping me status quo in my current situation, my current life? What are all these patterns telling me about who I am? And what you'll notice is that they'll reveal your actual identity. And even for yourself, you can go back and look at all your different prompts, the last 30 or 50 prompts that you have used with GPT or Claude. How do you frame those questions? How do you respond when AI gives you a certain perspective? Do you push back? Do you just accept it blindly? Right? So all of these factors here are playing into your identity and who you actually are. And this is allowing you to get awareness of who you are so you can upgrade your internal operating system. And your avoidances equals your blind spots. Maybe if you avoid tough conversations, if you avoid speaking up when it's your turn, or keeping quiet when you know that you should speak up and say something, but you don't want to cause any friction or ruffle any feathers. You want to keep the peace, but then you're losing a part of you because the real you internally knows that he should be speaking up, but you are not able to because you believe that you're going to cause chaos, problems, issues. And if you just keep quiet, then you're going to keep the peace. And so this is stuff that you don't really notice sometimes and you're not aware of. And you just keep running these loops and these patterns. Okay? Keep running these loops, these patterns. And it's just like continual. And you don't realize that you're in this cycle. Okay? And you're just like, kind of living life and you're like, hey, I'm just here and I'm experiencing, and maybe you have some success, but you don't realize that you have a ceiling that you've hit and that it's just about awareness that you're hitting the ceiling, and then you're able to then go up to a new ceiling, and then this becomes your foundation. So it's really about understanding what you're typing in to the machines, your prompts. They give you your thinking level, the patterns that they show across that gives you your identity, and then your avoidances are your blind spots, everything that you're avoiding within yourself and externally to keep you where you're at. And this right here, the avoidance, this is a subconscious component here, okay? The subconscious component in terms of everything that you're avoiding that you're unaware of, okay? Because this is the 95% that most people miss, because the 5% is just your conscious mind. And this is what most people are aware of, right? That surface level, habits, behaviors, action, activity. 95% is your subconscious mind that is being run automatically, instinctually, without your awareness. And so all your avoidances, your blind spots, you're not aware of it because it's internal and it's unconscious. And so when you can use AI to help you bring awareness to that, then everything changes for you because you can see the level that you're thinking from, the identity that you're operating from, and then everything that you're avoiding that is sitting in your subconscious mind so that you can fix it, adjust it, and upgrade your internal operating system. In today's day and age, think about how most people are using AI right now. They're using it from a tool aspect, from a tool perspective, right? They're getting output, strategies, content, creatives, research, all of these different things that give you different outputs, right? Especially automations, agents, workflows, all these great and magnificent ways to use AI, right? It's come a long way. It's productivity to the max. And then the teacher aspect, you learn frameworks, knowledge, information that you weren't aware of because it has access to the internet, right? Billions, maybe even trillions of pages of content that it can pull from in a matter of seconds to give you information about questions that you have and that you're asking about a certain subject or a certain category, whatever it may be, right? You're able to learn frameworks, knowledge, information within a matter of seconds. But most people, because they're using the tool aspect and the teacher aspect so efficiently and effectively, and really mostly the tool aspect for output, they're using it so effectively that they never stop to ask the most important question here. What is the way that I'm asking these questions or interacting with you? What does all that say about who I am, about how I'm showing up, about how I interact with the world? What is all that telling me about myself? Because most people are at the level of what can AI give me? A strategy, a piece of content, automation, workflow, but it should be, what is AI showing me? And so this first question here is how the average user or consumer uses AI. What can I get from the tool? What value can I extract here? Automations, workflows, content, strategy, research, analysis, creative, all of that, which is amazing and great in and of itself. But the second question here is how an architect uses AI to learn about themselves and reprogram and upgrade their internal operating system so they can become a better version of themselves. And the gap between these two questions is where the mirror sits, because the mirror is always here, okay? And that's what I figured out. The mirror is always there. It's just a matter of when you can start to ask and make a deliberate choice to ask, what is AI showing me about myself? And I think this is where the biggest challenge comes with self-reflection, because it's first of all hard and difficult and challenging and uncomfortable, but it's the best way to reflect back and get reflected back how you're actually showing up, instead of trying to have something be sugar-coated or have someone sugarcoat you and say, hey, you're actually you're actually an amazing person. There's nothing wrong with you. You're actually too kind and too great and too amazing. This actually tells you your level of thinking when you ask it precisely. How do you show up as an identity? Who are you? I am. And when you ask AI, it's going to tell you, you are X, you are ABC, because of all of these different things, your prompts, your avoidances, your blind spots, right? It's going to interact with you, right? I mean, it has all this background history on you. You're communicating with it. So it's going to know your patterns. It's going to know all of that you may not be aware of, that is in your subconscious mind, that this can bring to light, right? 95% is in the subconscious mind, so that you can fix that. You can adjust it. You can make sure that you're getting the outcomes that you actually want. Okay, so now I want to go over the mirror reflection system. So let me go ahead and erase the board here. Okay, so the mirror reflection system. This is an acronym here. This is 6 steps, and each one turns the mirror towards a layer that most people that are using AI on a daily basis have never examined. And this is also not just some kind of prompt formula or strategy. What this ultimately is here is a structured self-awareness practice. Okay? So step number 1, M. You want to map your thinking. This is where you want to really think about and figure out, what am I actually thinking about? Like really, like actually, like sitting down and just realizing and thinking about, what am I really actually thinking about here? And for this, what you want to do is you want to pull up like your last conversation with AI, and you want to ask it this. So based on everything that I've brought to you, what is the central premise running through my thinking? Powerful question. It's going to tell you so much. This is going to give you an entire premise of the central theme running through how you've been operating in terms of your thinking, your perspective, your worldview, right? Maybe it comes back and it says, hey, you know what? You are a highly effective entrepreneur and you've been able to reach a certain threshold. However, I constantly see that there's limitations of your thinking because of you saying this, or because you said this over here. And then you'll realize things that you said that you didn't know or realize that are actually holding you back and that are limiting you. Okay, so this is going to spit out and tell you a whole bunch of stuff, a very important information that's going to tell you about your central premise and theme around how you're thinking and the level that you're thinking from and at. And then from there, you're going to step into the next step. You want to identify your patterns. And so through this response here, this first one should give you some patterns. Hey, you're constantly saying this, and you're constantly coming from this lens, this perspective, right? That's going to show you some patterns. And so this is what you're consistently, or what's consistently showing up, okay, across this central theme. And the way that I want you to think about this is that patterns are your subconscious speaking in repetition. Okay? When you're asking AI to identify these reoccurring themes, these patterns across all your conversations, you're essentially asking your unconscious mind, right? The unconscious part of you to reveal itself, right? That 95%. Put this right here. You have kind of a small 5% of the iceberg, and then 95% here, okay? You're asking the subconscious to reveal itself in terms of how you're actually showing up without your awareness. And this is super important because once you can name the pattern, you can fully see it. That's when you can begin to replace it. Step number 3, you want to reveal blind spots. And this is where you want to ask yourself, where am I protecting myself from clarity? Because honestly, clarity is a superpower and it's very important to have. But oftentimes we have blind spots that are not allowing us to get that clarity that we are needing so that we can see what's really going on here and adjust and fix it, because We just don't have the awareness that these patterns, these blind spots are even there in the first place. Here's the prompt for this one. Based on how I frame my questions, what am I consistently avoiding? Think about that. That is so powerful. Maybe how you're framing the questions, you are framing it with being too conservative, too much in terms of resistant, or not being risk tolerant, where, hey, if I get A, B, and C done, but I'm missing C, I have to figure out C before I even make another move, because if C isn't done, then it's all going to break down and it's not going to work. And so that could potentially show you that, you know what, you are constantly overthinking and trying to over prepare and taking action and figuring things out as you go, right? In terms of having, like, let's say 60 to 80% clarity. Maybe you're someone who is looking for that 100% clarity before you make a move. And so there's limitations in that. And so you're avoiding moving forward and taking action because you believe that you need to have everything perfectly aligned before you even make another move. So this is the beautiful thing about this, is that you get to see your blind spots in real time by asking these questions and prompting AI to tell you, what are you seeing in terms of who I am, in terms of what am I avoiding, blind spots, beliefs, limiting beliefs, all these amazing things that are going to help you see what the subconscious mind is hiding. Step number 4, you want to reflect honestly. This is where you want to think about who is actually running this conversation. This is essentially where you're doing an identity audit. You want to get a picture, an idea of, this is who you are, this is how you're acting, this is what all your actions, your behaviors, your questions, your framing, everything in terms of how you're interacting with AI. And all of that information is giving you an identity audit. Because every prompt is essentially a belief statement. So you really want to take that into account when you're writing to AI. Okay? Every prompt is a belief statement. And so think about when you're interacting with AI, think about the beliefs that you have implicitly built into the question. And so here what you can do is use a prompt where, in my conversations, what are the beliefs that are showing up consistently? What are my limiting beliefs? So this is going to give you a better picture of your beliefs that are hiding here in the 95% in the subconscious mind, right? And you can extract all this information so that you can be aware of, you have limited thinking and beliefs here, and your ability to make things happen, to move, to reach to, maybe you're at 50K per month and you have a limited ceiling and you don't believe that you can surpass that and reach 100K a month because of something, of how you're communicating or just how you're seeing the world, that somebody with the 100K is just out of your reality for whatever reason. What are those limiting beliefs? Why are they there? Where do you think they're coming from? And what are they currently doing in terms of holding me back? How are they holding me back? All these different questions that you can ask about all your conversations are amazingly powerful. Step number 5, organize insight. This is where you want to analyze and look at what is now visible that wasn't before. Right? So you've gone through all of this whole process here. You've mapped your thinking. You've identified your patterns. You have looked at, based on the revealing of your blind spots, you've looked at all of those. You've reflected honestly about your views, about your beliefs, about your limiting beliefs that are holding you back and keeping you where you are, right? Getting insight into the subconscious mind and why that's there in the first place. And then here, now you're looking at, okay, all this information that I've gathered, these insights, what is new here? What is the story that this data, this analysis is telling me? This is where you can ask AI to synthesize what it has observed across your reflections into a coherent identity profile. Very, very powerful, okay? Because you're asking AI now to look at all of this stuff that you've become aware of, and then to give you an identity profile of how you're operating at the identity level, which is your OS, okay? Identity is always the root system, OS, operating system that's running the entire machine, the human body, your reality, your existence, okay? You have an identity that is running everything, that is filtered through everything, okay? So your identity is the main internal operating system that's running everything else, your beliefs, your perspectives, your worldviews, your emotions, everything else. And this profile here, once you organize this all through the insights that AI is giving you, this is the starting point for everything that changes next, right? Because in order for you to upgrade your internal operating system, which is your identity, you need to know all this stuff that's been running and happening so you can fix it. And this is what AI helps you become aware of. All of this in terms of how you are actually showing up as an individual in your own reality. And then finally, the last step here, we want to reinforce awareness. And you want to ask yourself, what changes when I see clearly every day? When you have full clarity in terms of all of these different things that are running, everything that's happening, and I'm fully aware now, where we have the 5 different levels, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5D. When we have an elevated level of thinking, of perspective, of worldview, and we can see everything here, right? We're like up there on top of the satellite, one of the satellites on top of Earth, right? Above Earth in the space, and it's looking down and seeing everything. Blind spot over here, limited belief over here, limited worldview over there, right? All of that is aware to you now. What changes now that I can see everything clearly? So ultimately, the final step here is daily practice in using AI as a reflection system, as a mirror. And this could be like once a day or once a week. But I would say once a week or so is good enough. But if you're first starting out, it would likely be more once a day. And asking it a very simple question. Based on everything that we've gone through today, or how I've interacted with you, with GPT or Claude or whatever tool that you're using, ask it, what identity is showing up based on all of our interactions today? And when you do this starting out, I would say do it for a good 30 days, every single day. When you do this on a daily basis, you will be amazed of how different your level of thinking rises to, and then also how you're showing up and how that you have been able to become aware of all these different things, blind spots, limiting beliefs, limited worldviews, limited perspectives, how all of that was there previously and is starting to fade because you're becoming aware of it and you're intentionally fixing it, updating it, replacing it so that your internal operating system starts to be upgraded as well, right? So you're using it as a reflection tool so you can become a better version of yourself, so you can see yourself with full clarity. So let's recap this. So the reflection system is a structured self-awareness practice, okay, that you utilize. Allows you to see your subconscious. So the first step is you want to map out your thinking. What are you actually thinking about? Based on everything that I've brought to you, what is the central premise running through my thinking? Identify your patterns. What is constantly showing up? What are the patterns that are showing up that I can't see that are here in the subconscious mind? Reflect honestly. Be real and authentic about your situation, about your circumstance, and ask about your beliefs holding you back, okay? The beliefs that are limiting you and keeping you where you're currently at and not allowing you to get to that next version of you. And then reinforce awareness. Do this on a daily basis when you're first starting out to help you get daily clarity and to synthesize everything that you have presented AI and learned yourself to build you an identity profile that you can work off of, but keep in that daily practice, at least for that 30 days initially. And then after that, perhaps going every week, every month. But still, I think using it as much as possible as an identity audit, as a reflection tool, as a co-intelligence to reach that next version of yourself is something that you should be done all the time as much as possible, because we're always looking to reach new heights, especially as entrepreneurs, business owners, content creators, people that are high achievers, right? We're always looking to get to that next version of ourselves. And we can use a tool that is non-biased, where we can clearly see ourselves for who we are right now, and then look at what do we need to do? What are the characteristics of that next version of ourselves? And how do we start acting in accordance with that, right? It allows us to step into that next version of ourselves that much more easier and clearer, because we know exactly what that looks like and we know exactly where we are currently. So it's amazing. We can find out where we're at, what's going on, what's happening, and then where we want to get to. And then that gap of understanding what we need to do to get there. And so I've used AI every day for the last few years, and I've used it to build so many different things: workflows, automations, content, strategy, research, all these different things. But when I started to use it as a mirror, as a co-intelligence to reflect to me how I'm showing up, that's when everything changed for me, because then I was able to level up and shift and adjust my internal operating system to upgrade it so that I can reach a new version of myself so much more quicker and easier, with less tension, with less weight, because I could see my patterns and blind spots and beliefs that were limiting all in real time. And then I can adjust and shift those to have empowering beliefs and to remove those blind spots and fix those. So I want you to ask yourself, what are your prompts actually revealing to you about how you actually think? What patterns keep showing up in the problems that you bring to AI? What are you consistently not asking because the answer might require you to change something? Here's the thing. AI didn't break my reality. It showed me how it was built. You don't need better answers. You don't need more information. You need to see yourself clearly. And most people are not ready for that.